What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to my Spotlight series. This one will be a midweek episode because it's something I wanted to get out pretty quickly. For those that don't know, the much anticipated sequel to 2014 Scarefest Outlast released the weekend just gone. Over the weekend, me and a few friends played through the opening 2 to 3 hours of Outlast 2 and had a pretty good time of it overall. There we go, that's your review actually. I'll see you guys next time. Of course I'm fucking around. I really want to talk about this game. In today's video, we'll be going through the major strengths of Outlast 2 when compared to its hugely successful and popular predecessor. It's worth noting that Outlast 2 is not a direct sequel to the first game, but it is set in the same universe as far as I'm aware. Like and subscribe if you enjoy, and we'll get straight into it. First up today is the graphics. I hate to be a graphics snob, but the first thing you'll probably notice jumping into this game is the vast improvement of the visual design in Outlast 2. Obviously taking advantage of the improved hardware at hand in the consoles, the particle effects, lighting and facial details are all much improved, which does all it can to immerse you into the atmosphere even more. The developers probably could have got away with average graphics, assuming the rest of the game was as good as the original, but instead they clearly made sure that the graphics are as good as they needed to be. Number 2 is the AI. With Alien Isolation being the first that comes to mind here, good or even great AI is key in a horror game. The genre will generally lose its effect on the player if the AI is below par, as inevitably things will get predictable and stale. The first Outlast made sure its scares were unpredictable and most importantly unexpected, and Outlast 2 appears to follow the trend that its former set. With clever enemies that almost certainly will find you at some point if you hide in one spot for too long, differing patrol routes over time, and relentless pursuing once found, the chases will 110% keep you on edge at all times, as they did us when we played it. Well worth mentioning as well is the main elite enemy. As seemingly the enforcer for the villages and its people, she appears out of nowhere regularly, and while not fast, she will do everything in her power to catch you. Very relatable to the security guard in the first Outlast, these scripted appearances are terrifying, and more than often lethal if you don't plan your escapes carefully enough. Number 3 is the pacing. I think most people agree that the original Outlast was pretty fucking relentless, am I right? Well, this sequel takes that and really pushes it 2 and well down past 11. From the get-go, the atmosphere is strong, with the trademark score keeping tensions high. The game starts you off relying on your natural nervousness to boost the scares, but it soon abandons any kind of moral support for you and evolves into some of the most frantic horror gaming that I've ever experienced. With chase scenes a lot less scripted than they were, moving between hiding spots and trying to outwit opponents becomes the name of the game. But also keeping aware of your position and the escape routes is extremely important, especially with the new setting that Outlast 2 provides. More on this in a bit. These chase sections are also a lot more common, and the hostile enemy count in Outlast 2 is noticeably much higher than in the first game. So chase sequences become like a more fatal version of Bulldog, ducking and weaving between enemies while you traverse the routes required to escape.
Woe to the bloody city! Consume the flesh. Smash away on perfect. Surrender bones been burned.
Stealth is obviously back again, but this time enemies come armed with flashlights. Hiding becomes much more about line of sight and spatial awareness than it was in the first, and as mentioned, the enemies are more intelligent this time and will check most of the nooks and crannies that you find, which encourages you to risk moving spots and to sprint to safety when necessary.
Some cut the deep and got the windpipe, not the iris. That makes a long time dying. Remember how Mama used to call you? I know you.
There are still moments of downtime though, especially between these chase sections, but they unsurprisingly don't last very long. Overall, I think the pacing is probably the strongest area that Outlast 2 delivers in. Number 4 is the new mechanics. Outlast 2 could have quite happily have just preserved the game mechanics of the original and happily been another great horror game. They didn't though, much to the horror of all the gamers who struggled with the original as it was, myself definitely included. They've gone and added more than originally expected. First up is the most noticeable. The game doesn't fucking tell you how many batteries you have. It's genuinely okay to panic here. Yep, the lifeline, the warm embrace of the battery symbol is gone. You could have 10 or none, and unless you've been counting, you wouldn't have an effing clue. Anyone who's unlucky enough to run out of batteries in the first game knows quite how scary it becomes at that point. And the idea of having to mentally keep track of how many you've picked up versus how many you've used, no fun at all. The next mechanic to have been altered slightly is that of the camera. Being a professional reporter, Blake's camera is better than that of the more amateur guy in Outlast 1, and comes equipped with a microphone, meaning you can use it to monitor the sounds around you, coming in particularly handy when hiding and wanting to keep track of whoever the fuck was chasing you. The next mechanic is that of water. Blake, while apparently incapable of swimming underwater, can use rivers and other bodies of water as cover, crouching under the surface temporarily till whoever you're hiding from has just gone and fucked off. Creating particularly tense moments, this new mechanic is very well crafted and works perfectly with the new setting. The last mechanic that we noticed, as many others have in the demo, is Blake's glasses. Seemingly incapable of avoiding stacking it all the time, Blake has a habit of briefly misplacing his glasses, and until he's picked them up again, this has been a brief cinematic in the parts that we've played, his vision is horrifically hindered. While we haven't had this effect for more than a few seconds in the few hours we played, it's a fairly safe bet that we'll be forced to play without glasses for an extended period of time eventually. And that might well be when I decide to nope out of Outlast 2 for good. Number 5, and the last point I wanted to mention today in this review, is the setting. Trading in the claustrophobic asylum, Outlast 2 switches to a nice, overwhelming, hillbilly countryside feel with more than a touch of Hills Have Eyes thrown in.
We must rise to face. There's no innocence among the outsiders in our midst.
With lots more exploration required to find the right route and then to find the safest way to it, combined with God knows how many houses, dead ends and side routes hiding collectibles and the coveted batteries, the world of Outlast 2 is both more interesting and more terrifying to explore than the first title, mostly because of the increased size of each area. With that being said, deaths and getting lost are also far easier and more common this time round, with plenty of ways to get trapped or cornered. Overall though, the new setting of Christian cult Arizona meets Hills Have Eyes and baby murder, it really sets in nicely with the style and gameplay that Outlast brings to the table, but it does remain to be seen if it consistently stays that way, as Outlast 1's setting worked terrifically over the course of its entire campaign. Here's the last point in today's video though, everyone. So far, Outlast 2 has been great, I'm not going to deny it. I'd estimate that we got maybe a third of the way through it in our little session with it on Saturday night, and we really enjoyed most of it. It's worth noting as well that the story is prioritised far more this time round. The first game chucked most of the backstory at you in the final act, whereas Outlast 2 seems to be spreading out the narrative pretty consistently throughout. I'm really hopeful for this game overall and for the franchise in the future, so if you do like first-person horror, the Outlast 2 needs to be on your list. I will say at the moment though, that the regularity of the dying in Outlast 2 does kind of put the mockers on the fun after a while, because to its credit, the game doesn't hold your hand through the game. It doesn't tell you where you need to go. It gives you a base objective, and then after that, it's up to you to find whatever it is you're looking for. But this, combined with the brand new size of the area and the new setting, makes it so easy to get caught and die. And that did get kind of boring for us after a while. There was one section where we were getting chased by the new elite enemy, and she must have killed us 4 or 5 times before we finally found the right route. And that does get kind of dull after a while, so hopefully that doesn't remain the case for the whole game. Based on what I've played though, I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 so far, and it certainly has the potential to best the original entry. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, once I've completed it, I will either do a Let's Play, I haven't decided yet, I might want to experience this one on my own, but either way, once I finish it, I will be doing a review. I'd estimate probably next month. Stick around for that. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.
This to yourself. She looked at me and this is what she said. Oh, the